Hello, my name is Emilia. Today I want to show you how to make my makeup bag. It's called Mini Garden and it's so small. That's the center of the pattern. I just make a quick pattern here so I can follow it. 28 centimeters by 32.5 centimeters long. So 28 centimeters is 14 centimeters and a half. So let's do 14 centimeters marks. Then we're gonna make a line. Same, 32.5 centimeters long. Centimeters long. And then same this side. We're basically making a rectangle shape. 32.5. Now again 14 and 14 on each side. And then join them together. Now we're going to add seam allowance around it. 1 centimeter seam allowance here. Now we're going to find the center of the pattern. 32.5 in half. It's around 16.2. 16.2 centimeters. Make a line. Next, we're gonna split the top piece. So first measurement is 7.6 from the center, 7.6 centimeters from the center. And then 7.6 centimeters from each side. Okay. We're joining that line. Same on that side. 7.6. And 7.6 on each side. Another line. Now our rectangle is split to 4. Starting from the second line, we're gonna measure 3.5 centimeter on each side. 3.5. Then going in 4.5 centimeter. 4.5 centimeter. Now we're just gonna join the lines. 4.5, and then these lines together. So it's 3.5, 3.5, 4.5, 4.5. And now we just make a seam allowance around it, 1 centimeter. And 3.5, it's 4.5, then it's 4.5 here. Okay, now I will cut around the pattern. Okay, now I'm gonna fold it on a center line and pin the pattern together on the top, in the middle, and on the bottom. And we'll cut out from the inner lines, just like that, together, 2 pieces. There we go. So, make sure it's cut straight. It's tricky to cut it at inner line. Just take your time. There we go. And there we are, pattern. Now if you like, you can add the seam allowances on that side. One centimeter seam allowance. Go. Just to match the other side. That's your pattern. It's cosmetic bag, size small. So the last thing you will need to adjust is the front, where the zip is stitched into. So that seam at the front. You need to measure your zip. So there's different sizes of zip width. This one is size 5 zip, and this one is size 3 zip. The normal small zip you can buy is size 3, so that's probably what you will get, but depends what you can get in your shop. I'm using size 5 in my bags. So you will need to measure from the center of the teeth up to 3 millimeters on the tape. So from the center up to 3 millimeters on the tape, so it's 6-7 millimeters. So that and this one, the smaller one, size 3, it's gonna be much less, so it's around 5 millimeters. So whichever zip size you've got, you will need to take off that amount, so 6 millimeters, 7 millimeters from the size 5 and a 5 millimeters off from size 3. So mine is size 5, so 6 millimeters. I measure 6 millimeters, and then you make a line. You make that line, 6 millimeters line, and you trim that off. And then let me trim that off first. So trim it. And then you do your centimeter line for the seam allowance. And as this side is finished, you turn your pattern around and you do exactly the same thing on that side. So take off 6 millimeters, 6 not 7, 6 millimeters of the pattern, cut it out, and then just draw your 1 centimeter seam allowance line. There, and that's your finished pattern. So we did that because as you can see, there is quite a bit of the zip on show here, and this seam is not on the center of the zip, so you need to take out that amount of that part of the pattern, because otherwise it wouldn't match this side. So if you stitch it as it was before we cut it out, this part of the bag will be much wider than this part, and it wouldn't match when you stitch them together, if that's clear. Now your pattern is done and we can start cutting the fabric. Now I will show you what materials we need before we start making our bags. So we're gonna need main fabric. I'm using 100% cotton fabric. This lovely print is from Liberty of London. Then I'm using this cream 100% cotton fabric as my lining. Then is fusible fleece. I use that in most of my bags. On one side is a glue and on the other side is just plain smooth side. And I use the wadding. This one is 4-ounce wadding batting material. Then you will need your zip. You can buy zip which is 30 centimeters long. This zip I cut into size from my zip that I buy by the meter. I love using those because it's just, you can split them and stitch to each side. It's much easier, but also you can use just normal zip that you can get from the shop. It works okay too. I cut my fabric slightly bigger than the pattern, and I will cut into the size of the pattern after I quilt it, because the fabric might shrink tiny bit, so I always cut into the shape after it's quilted. First of all, we're gonna join the main fabric with that fleece I showed you before, with the gluey side attached to the wrong side of the fabric. So that's glue side and the wrong side of the fabric. We're gonna iron that together just to fuse it together. To fuse the fleece with the cotton fabric, you need to hold it, the iron, for around 8 to 10 seconds and move it to the next part, next piece. Now it should be fused together. You can place your main fabric with the fleece on top of the batting now, and I like to pin it in a couple of places just to keep it together. There. My quilting lines will be a vertical and will have 2.5 centimeter gap, so they're going to be 2.5 centimeter apart from each other, but there is lots of different designs of quilting, so pick whatever you like for your bag. This is my quilting presser foot. It's set up to 2.5 centimeters, but you can change the size, depends what your design is going to be, so you can extend it wider if you like, or make it even narrower if you like. So let's set that up for now. If you don't have the foot, you can measure your line and draw them with a chalk, or use a special pen that disappeared after the heat when you use the iron. But I just use that so much and I love that presser foot, so I recommend that very much. That's the top of the bag, that's where the zip's gonna be, so I always stitch that first, just to keep it, all the layers attached together. Now I'm gonna stitch the vertical lines. So you place the guide on each line and just go down. Just like that. And start again. And you keep going until the last one. I'll try to show you the closer. And that's how your fabric looks when it's finished. And we're ready to start cutting. I'm placing the center line on the center line of my stitch. So that notch is on the stitch line. Pin it. Sit here. Pin it. And just securely pin the fabric into the pattern. Okay, now using sharp scissors, we are going to cut everything out. I notch the center of the fabric. Just do a little snip at the center. Take that off. And that's the main fabric cut. Now if you like to add little tabs to your bag, you could use the offcuts of this square here. So we got this offcuts, you just need to unpick that. The measurements for these tabs are 4 centimeters by 7 centimeters. We need 2 of those. Okay, let's cut the lining. Just place the pattern, pin it. Okay. Again, make a little snip where the center is on both sides. You can unpin it. That's our lining, that's our main fabric. That's our zip. And that's our tops. And we can start sewing. Firstly, I'm gonna stitch my Mullen Studio label. So if you have your brand labels, stitch them on right now. I will change the foot from quilting to narrow foot. Is the presser foot that looks like this. I use this narrow foot for zips all the time. There we go. Or any edge stitching you have, it's nice to have this. Really makes it easier. Stitch that in. Go over that seam. It's done. Now we're gonna stitch the zip. So I like this zip because you can split it and do on each side separately instead of just unzipping it, and it's much easier. I found it much easier. So I place the zips down to the right side of the fabric. And stitch 1 centimeter away from the outline. That side. Now we're gonna do the same on the other side. So your zip's going down. And we're going to repeat the same thing. Now we're going to attach the lining to that fabric, to the main fabric. So the right sides together. So we're doing it this way. And wrong side facing you, and then we're gonna stitch. You can stitch on the lining side, but actually I like to stitch better on the fluffy side, just because I can follow this stitch which we did it before. Like that. The same on this side. That's what we got. Now we're gonna turn it into the right side, and next I like to press it gently because it's obviously quilted, so don't put too much pressure on the fabric, just very light steam and more work with your fingers to push it fabric away from the zip. Make sure lining as well is pushed away from the zip, very gentle, not pressing hard, because you don't want to flatten the quilt. Okay, I will change the foot into my normal top stitching foot. there. And we're gonna top stitch all the layers together, 0.5 millimeters, to make sure that underneath the lining fabric it's pushed away from the zip. Looks like this. Same on this side. 0.5 centimeter. And that's finished. Now I will attach the zipper pull into the zip. So that's gonna be a little bit tricky sometimes, but let's hope. So make sure it's straight. I need to adjust a tiny little bit. There we go, should be okay now. Yep. Don't pull it over because obviously you will need to start again. So now we're gonna secure the zip teeth. Zip teeth. So the pullet doesn't come off. There we go. On that side as well, just to secure it. Kind of need to go back and forth a couple of times. There we are. And now it's safe to open and close. I will trim that zip there. On that side just to clean it up. Here. Now we're gonna stitch, so we attached this layer into lining, just a 0.5 centimeter seam, doesn't need to be exact, just so they're nicely together. This side also. And that part is finished and it looks like this so far. Now we're gonna stitch our tabs in, but firstly we need to make them. So 0.5 centimeter on each side, stitch them right side together. So that's the right side and you fold them that way. That's the first one. The second one. Okay, turn them right side out. Just screwdriver to do that. There we go. There we go. Now you can use needle or pin. Just pop out the corners. One. There we go. Quick iron, so they're nice and flat. Yeah, we're gonna top stitch them now. 0.5 centimeter around 3 sides leaving the raw side unstitched, obviously. Centimeter. Okay, the tops are ready. Now we're gonna pin them center. You can make a little notch in the center of the tab just to make it easier to find the right position. So the knot is on the center of the zip. You can pin that also to secure it. On that side also the same thing. So the notch, and the notch is gonna be the center, and pin. And we will top stitch, stitch them together. Top stitch that on just to one layer, just to make sure the lining is away, and just do that layers. And this you can tuck it in so it's out of the way. Around a centimeter, a bit less than a centimeter. Okay, so that's in. First one. And the second one, again, make sure the lining, see I pinned the lining accidentally. Make sure it's just the first layers, and the other lining side, and it's tucked in, and the fabric is tucked in. Stitch. There we are. So it looks like that. Now we're gonna turn the back inside out. So it looks like this. So you got the fluffy side on that side and the whole linings on that side. I just do that first, stitching this side to that side. So you pin it in there if you like. I will just go and start sewing. One centimeter seam allowance. So now we have those two layers together, and now we can attach the lining. So again, lining's gonna go underneath because it's just easier to find the line. It's already stitch line on this side, so I always follow that side. And we're gonna stitch that, and we only left with the little holes there. Let's repeat that on this side. So stitch these layers together, leaving the lining last. 1 centimeter seam allowance. And now turning, so the lining is underneath and the fluffy side facing you, and we just follow the same stitch. Oh yeah, it looks like this. So we're gonna turn from this side to the right side using one of the openings. And make sure you're not pulling too hard to not rip any of the fabric. So let's just slowly pull the back through one of the little holes. Almost there. There we are. Okay. And it should look like this. Okay. Now I like to top stitch this line next, just to make it flat and nice. So you're stitching through all the layers flat, and it's half centimeter seam, half centimeters top stitch. All this extra top stitching give your back a bit more support and make it more steady, and it keeps a nice shape when it's finished. So I do like top stitching my backs. Same on this side, so on both sides, half centimeter top stitch. And that looks like this. It's also that side. Nicely top stitch. Now we're gonna turn our back so the lining facing us, and we have 4 kind of corners to sew up, so we need to fold them like that and pin it. And this side, make sure that it's all nicely line up, lining and the main fabric. There we go. Just trim those little threads off. And we're gonna stitch each side 1 centimeter down. Of course, back stitching before you start every new line, new stitch. I like to poke my scissors in between this main fabric and just stretch it tiny little bit so it's nice and flat, and then just fold it. And that's our first stitch. We repeat that for all the 4 sides. Okay, you can clean the threads first. Just to clean it up. There we go. And you can make your own binding by cutting 4 centimeter bias strips. And you can make your own binding, but I use the binding I bought from eBay. It's a bias back cotton binding. It's 2.5 centimeter width. So firstly, I will stitch. So you open it like this, because the pre-made bias binding look like this from the other side. I match that line with my stitch, and I will stitch it down, leaving a little bit extra on that end. So you're just roughly trying to follow the line of your stitch So that line of fold is open and you just follow it. You can see it a little bit if that's white. And now we're gonna cut that a little bit away as well, so you got a bit extra on each side. Next is to fold. So you're folding it down, that you open that seam, and you kind of folding it inside like that. And now we will edge stitch that down. Same on that side. So you fold it down, and then you can pin that down first and then finish sewing. So I like to do it that way. I'll show you the other side, maybe pin it first. Then you stitch it edge stitch, which is about 1 millimeter and 2 millimeters down. There we are. And that's our first binding finished. I'm just gonna do fast. Fold in. You can pin them firstly down. You don't need to go through all the layers, just the first layer if it's too thick. And so it's down, and then like that. You can pin that. And now you can stitch. I like to use my scissors to give it a little push sometimes because it's quite thick, all these layers together. Depends what your machine can do. There we go. Back stitch each side when you start and finish, and repeat. We have 2 more to go. Now we're gonna iron the binding. You can add a little bit of pressure on bindings, but again, if you want to just nicely steam your lining inside, just the steam. And we can turn the back right side out. So poke out the corners, steam to shape it. Steam, shape, steam. Okay. So this is my finished makeup bag. I really hope you enjoyed the video, and I really hope you could follow along, as this was my first ever YouTube tutorial and I'm still learning how to present them, how to do them. So if you like it, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in next one. Bye bye.